Hello, welcome to Rabona TV. It's me, Adrian, and we're going to be previewing not one, but two leagues today, the Bundesliga and Ligue. Not the entirety of each table, given the amount of ground we have to cover, but just the top. We'll be covering the Serie A and La Liga in the coming days, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell so that you don't miss those predictions / previews this week. Cool? Cool. Let's start with Ligue or League 1. Considering this is urgent stuff as the season has already begun, starting with 4th place. Unfortunately for AS Monaco, it seems as if they start to build something and then they get dismantled. Such is the life of a feeder club, and I'm speaking from experience here as a Benfica fan. Face your own reality and thrive in it. In fact, I feel pretty bad for Leonardo Jardim, as he was commanding such an incredible squad a few seasons ago that won a domestic double and pushed their way to the semi-finals of the Champions League, only to be completely cherry-picked, with Thomas Lemar, Fabinho, Rachid Ghazal, Adama, Diakabi, and more all on their way out alongside João Moutinho and Keita Balde, and that was just this summer. That said, while they have reinvested in a host of promising young players, namely Alexander Golovin, who had a decent showing at the World Cup, I think that this is just too much change for Jardim to handle this season. Monaco will continue to slide down the table once again, ending up in 4th place this time. Just ahead of them will be the team that pushed for your Europa League title last season, Marseille. While Marseille have so far been able to hold on to Florian Thauvin, they haven't improved their squad much in key areas that needed to be strengthened. They have brought in Kaletakar, the young Croatian centre-back from RB Salzburg, who fans will be hopeful to be the perfect partner to Adil Rami. They have failed to bring in a striker to add some potency to their attack, so it looks as though they will be reliant upon the likes of Thauvin, Payet, and their wingers once again for any sort of danger going forward. Add to the fact that they have lost Andre Anguissa to Fulham, and their midfield isn't impressing me too much. They have welcomed back Remy Cabella, or Cabella, who spent last season on loan at Saint-Etienne, where he actually looked decent. He got 7 goals and 6 assists for them in 26 appearances. But like I said, they still haven't brought in a striker, and Mitroglou and Germain both failed to inspire me. If they don't bring in a striker by the time their window closes, I think that Marseille will only climb as high as 3rd. And as for the top 2 teams, it will come down to either Lyon or PSG. PSG have a new manager in Thomas Tuchel, a manager who is seen as a genius by some and as a nuisance that causes problems within his own club by others. Apparently there was quite the disconnect between himself, some of his players, and the backroom staff at Borussia Dortmund, leading up to him parting ways with the club. Apparently he is now making more of an effort to get along with his players.
With the air, I don't care.
And has convinced the likes of Adrien Rabiot and Neymar to stay, though there was less likely of a chance that Neymar would be leaving. But they have gotten rid of some of their deadweight in the squad, with Pastore and Berchiche being the biggest names to leave, while Gigi Buffon is really the only big signing that they made. And I mean, his influence goes beyond just shot stopping, as he'll be a leader both on the pitch and in the dressing room. But with the likes of Cavani, Mbappe, and Neymar in the attack, with Timothy Weah waiting in the wings, as well as an already solid backline in midfield, there was never many improvements that were absolutely necessary with his squad. In fact, he was probably the main improvement that they needed. Unai Emery was brought in to do one thing: win the Champions League, and he never did it. Has Tuchel ever done it? No, but if he actually is as good of a manager as people like to believe that he is, and he can get this team flying and build upon last season's treble, there's only one other trophy that he'll be required to win. But a team that will be hoping to push them all the way, at least as far as the Ligue 1 title goes, will be Lyon, who have also done little to improve upon the squad that finished in 3rd last season. However, they have been able to hold on to some key components as things stand right now. Depay, Fekir, and Ndombele, Toussaint, Aouar, Mariano Diaz, they're all still around, and with another season under their belt for Bruno Genesio, they look to be building on something here. That being said, if Lyon were to lose any of those players, namely Nabil Fekir or Mariano Diaz, then I would fear for them a bit this coming season. But assuming they do hold on to those players, I expect them to really make a good run of things in the league, but ultimately fall short in 2nd. And when I say fall short, I mean really fall short, as I mean I can't see anyone getting anywhere near PSG if Tuchel can deliver. So, Ligue 1 fans and other fans alike, how do you see the Ligue 1 going? Same old same with PSG in front, or will we have a shock this season? And now we move on to the Bully, or Bundesliga for the uninitiated, and as per the custom, we'll start with the bottom, aka 5th place. While Bayern managed to finish ahead of RB Leipzig last season in 5th place, I don't think that they'll be able to replicate that feat, with Leipzig grabbing onto 5th this season, their highest in the Bundesliga since their first season in the competition during the 16-17 season, in which they climbed as high as 2nd. Now, of course, Leipzig lost Naby Keita to Liverpool, which is a big problem for them, and one they haven't really addressed as of yet, at least. There are rumors that they are in talks with Sebastian Rudy, who, before going to Bayern Munich, was instrumental in Hoffenheim's success, so that could be a beneficial move for all parties involved. Unless he goes to another team that I'll speak of later, which is sounding a little more likely. Leipzig, of course, have a new manager in Ralf Rangnick, who was the guy that got them from the 2nd Bundesliga into the 1st before Ralf Hasenhüttl took over. He knows the club inside out, as he has operated as both a sporting director and obviously a manager for them in the past, but I think that he'll have a hard time in reaching the heights that Leipzig managed in their 1st Bundesliga season. For these reasons, they'll be a bit better than last season, though only marginally. 5th. Can't wait to see Jesse Marsch as their manager. Slotting in just ahead of Leipzig will be the other team that opposing fans refer to as a plastic team, PSG 1899 Hoffenheim. Julian Nagelsmann looked as though he was going to suffer a bit from a sophomore slump last season after his side hit a very rough patch last December through February, before going on a 9-match unbeaten run and settling into 3rd place once all was said and done. Nagelsmann has continued to defy Bayern Munich, as it was rumored that he would be the next in charge after Jupp Heynck's successful interim appointment was up, but Nagelsmann will be staying with the club that has really helped him to build up his reputation. Guys, did you know he's only 31? Says every story about him ever, or used to at least. Anyways. The biggest loss, in my opinion, for Hoffenheim this summer has undoubtedly been Marc Uth, who left on a free to Schalke 04. They have brought in the somewhat journeyman Ishak Belfodil, who spent last season on loan at Werder Bremen and will hopefully add some of the goals that Uth would have provided. It's crazy, at just 26, Belfodil started at Lyon, then went from there to Parma, Inter, back to Parma, Bania's club, then Standard Liège, and now Hoffenheim, and that's not counting his loans at Bologna, Livorno, and Werder Bremen as well, which is crazy, 26 years old. But besides that, I'm a big fan of Julian Nagelsmann, as my previous video topics would suggest, and I'm confident that while he may not improve upon his 3rd place finish, he'll still do enough to end this season in 4th place, and maybe have a good Pokal run or something like that. Speaking of young coaches, Domenico Tedesco led Schalke to a somewhat surprising 2nd place finish last season. At least it was surprising, you know, from the outset of the season. It would have surprised me just a bit if you had told me they'd finished ahead of Dortmund. But his team looked the real deal throughout the Bundesliga season, finishing 8 points ahead of 3rd place Dortmund, with Tedesco and his tactics turning heads throughout. Guido Burgstaller was their main goals threat, though he only managed to hit 13 across all competitions. That's why the arrival of Marc Uth could really be the piece that Schalke was missing to take them to that next level, so to speak, as the next level in reality would be from 2nd to 1st. Now, Schalke did lose a big piece of their midfield in Leon Goretzka joining Bayern Munich, but they brought in both a defensive midfielder in Suat Serdar from Mainz and Omar Mascarell from Eintracht Frankfurt via Real Madrid. Also, their backline got a boost from Senegal centre-back Salif Sané, who joins from Hannover 96 after a strong World Cup. But all that said, I think that Schalke's fortunes are most reliant upon the tactics employed by Domenico Tedesco, and I think that will get them up to 3rd place. Did you know he's only 32? Wow! Expect a lot more of those stories once Schalke does alright this season. Anyways, and finally, we have the top 2 spots, as after Borussia Dortmund took a bit of a vacation from competitive football last season, you know, struggling their way to a 3rd place finish and leaving fans with a season to forget, things are looking more positive for this season. Now, before we get to the new coach, let's look at the comings and goings. Andriy Yarmolenko, Socrates, and Mikel Merino all ditched Dortmund for the Premier League, and if you were to ask some Dortmund fans, the loss of their Greek centre-back doesn't really faze them, as his erratic decision-making and positioning at times hurt Dortmund. Andre Schürrle also left on loan to the Premier League, despite showing signs of perhaps finding his form again last season. Oh, and of course, legendary keeper Roman Weidenfeller has hung up his boots. What a ledge. But Dortmund brought in Achraf Hakimi, the Moroccan right-back from Real Madrid, in on loan, as well as new centre-back Abdou Diallo from Mainz, and Axel Witsel and Thomas Delaney improve the Dortmund central midfield. I'm a big Witsel fan from his Benfica days, but I haven't seen much of him besides his Belgium exploits of late. Overall, I think that Dortmund did some good business, despite not addressing their striker problem yet, which Michael Zorc says is, quote, the most complicated. And finally, their new manager is a manager I can get behind, actually, as Lucien Favre may not be the most well-known manager in the world, but he has done great things in Germany before, including bringing up Ter Stegen and developing Marco Reus into the player that he is today. At least the initial bit of his development, while he was still with Borussia Mönchengladbach. As well, he got the most out of Mario Balotelli and Nice after getting Mönchengladbach into the Champions League for the first time in 37 years. I think he's an extremely interesting appointment and will likely supply Dortmund fans with the kind of football they have come to expect to see out of their squad and will get them fighting for the title again. Also, I believe that he'll be the manager that really takes Christian Pulisic to the next level, and with Marco Reus staying healthy, it could be a fun season once again for Dortmund fans, if they can find a striker. However, when you're up against the titan of both player and financial power that is Bayern Munich, things are always going to be tough for you. Perhaps Favre and Dortmund will take some solace in the fact that Bayern Munich are starting a bit of a new era under Niko Kovac, the former Eintracht Frankfurt and DFB Pokal winning manager who actually played for Munich for a couple of seasons. And while Bayern did bring in the aforementioned Leon Goretzka this summer and has Alphonso Davies joining them in January, my fellow Canadian, this summer's real masterstroke was the keeping of Robert Lewandowski, whether Bobek will be happy with it or not. They also sold Arturo Vidal for quite cheap actually, reportedly around 18 million euros, though if you ask some Bayern fans, it was about time that he had moved on. I mean, there's not much to say about this team. They exuded their dominance in the German Super Cup this past weekend with a massive 5-0 win over Eintracht Frankfurt. Now, whether that was a case of Kovac knowing the perfect way to dismantle his old team or speaks to the gulf in class between Bayern Munich and the rest of Germany's squads, I'll let you be the judge. But even with aging wingers in Robben and Ribéry, I fully expect Munich to take the Bundesliga title relatively easily. Borussia Dortmund, if they can find a striker before the window closes, could give them a real test, and I don't think Bayern will win by over 20 points again as they did last season, but they will be in first come May of 2019. So, again, I ask you, who do you have winning the Bundesliga? Will it be Bayern again? Dortmund? Schalke? Or someone else? Let me know and let's chat in the comments section. I appreciate you for watching this video, and if you have enjoyed it, drop a like and maybe a subscription if you're feeling extra generous. My name's Adrian, this is Rabona TV, and we'll see you tomorrow for some Serie A predictions.